Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, welcome. If you're a continued subscriber, thank you for your continued support. Today, what I have for you is I'm going to show you how to go from a ping into a 3D printed model. Now, this basically the name of my channel, minus the 3D obviously. And by the end of this video, you have the knowledge to create something like this. I created this one and I ended up creating this one. Now this one can be used maybe as a keychain. I mean, it's a big keychain, but it can be done. Or you could use it as a cake topper. So it's gonna be a long video. It's about 20 minutes long. But honestly, if you stay tuned, I promise you'll go from a ping like this into a 3D print like this. So stay tuned. We'll be covering TextStudio, which is a website that helps you create these so you can get a ping out of it. And then we'll go into Inscape and help you trace it so that you don't have to do any manual tracing like you would do in Illustrator. And then from there, I'll teach you how to bring it into Blender. And in Blender, we'll do all the extrusions, and then we'll export that as an STL. And then the STL, we'll put it into Bamboo Studio. You could use Cura if that's what you like, but I personally use Bamboo Studio. We're gonna put it in Bamboo Studio, paint it so that it's different colors. It could be just one color if you don't have the capability, if your printer doesn't have the capability to do that. But I went with that route because I have the resources. And at the end of it, you'll come out with something like this. So stay tuned, and I hope you learned something. Okay, so here we are in TextStudio. And from here, the cool thing about this website is it has this thing called a text generator. So I can put in whatever I want, and I can stylize it the way I want. So I'm gonna go to type in Gordo. It's gonna give me all these options. Now some of them are paid. I believe the ones with the flower on the top are paid. I'm just gonna click on, it doesn't matter which one you click. I just click on one. And now what it's doing is giving me that style. So what we wanna do is we wanna change the font. We wanna type in Minecraft or mine, and it'll give us what we need. So here's Minecraft, okay? The thing is, the way we're gonna do it is, if we give too much style and then we try to trace it, it won't work the way we expect to. So what I wanna do is I wanna go into the styles and I wanna turn a lot of that off. So I'm gonna come here in the filling. I'm just gonna keep it one color. I'm probably gonna go with a gray. Okay. And then we're gonna go to 3D projection. We do want 3D projection, but we don't want a gradient. We just want a color. So with this one, I'm gonna go with maybe a black. And I wanna make the orientation and the length a little bit different. Maybe the length a little bit bigger. Since this is going to be 3D, we want some overlap so that when we go to 3D print it, it's not 5 different objects, it's one object. So we do need the overlap. We're going to go to outlines and then shadows. So this has an inner shadow, which is that white inside. That's something we don't want, because we just want 2 colors. If we introduce too many colors, it's not gonna go the way we want to. So I'd like to, I like to turn this off. and I want to turn off the outer shadow. And now we're going to go back to the 3D filling, and we're going to change, keep the orientation. And then we're going to go back to text, and I need that creeper that shows up in the A in Minecraft. So I'm going to write paints, which is, well, my channel's called Gordo Paints 3D. And I think that's it. So now we're going to click on download. And what we want is a ping, transparent, because it's the best option for our next few steps. So I'm going to click on that. You don't have to worry about anything. Just click on download and it'll start downloading. And I'm going to switch over to Inscape, and I'm going to show you the next steps. Okay, so here we are in Inscape. Now, Inscape is comparable to Adobe Illustrator. It's open source, so you could download it for free. I'll put a link in the description below to where to find it, so you could try to follow along. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open the file or the ping that we downloaded from TextStudio. I'm also going to put a link in the description for TextStudio so that you can create whatever text you want and try to follow along with the steps that I'm going to show you next. So I'm going to go to where I saved it. I saved it on my desktop. This dialog shows up. I really don't do anything other than press OK. And here's the file. So I'm going to zoom out. And I'm going to go to Path, Trace Bitmap. And these are, so what I'm going to use is I'm going to use edge detection. Click on the bitmap or the ping, and it'll give you it'll show you a preview of what to expect. So I bring this down, all the way down, because whatever's white is going to be transparent, or is and whatever's black is going to be your curve. So what I want is, I don't want this, because then this is just going to be the curve. You're not going to be able to extrude any of it. So I'm going to bring this all the way down to 0, and I'm going to press apply. So now, like I said, everything white is going to be transparent or is going to be non-existent, and everything black is going to be the curve, which is basically, or the path, which is basically what you're going to need in Blender to extrude. So I'm going to press apply, and I'm going to temporarily hide my image so you can see. So you see here, these are your paths. So what we're going to do is we're going to invert this and just get the path for the inside of the text. So I'm going to come back here. I'm going to unhide my image. I'm going to hide the path temporarily. I'm going to go back to Trace Bitmap, and I'm going to click on Invert Image. So now everything black is going to be the curve, and everything white is going to be empty or transparent. So with this, you're going to get a background. I don't know if I click on remove background and I go back to single scan. No, it's not going to let me do that. So we're not going to worry about it too much. We could always fix this in Blender. We could always go back and delete the background in Blender. There's going to be a little bit of a background here, And that we'll need in order to connect the whole thing for when we print it out, because we want this to be one object. You could always go into Blender and cut it off. I'll show you in a minute. Apply. And now we have two paths. So I'm going to delete this. You don't really need to, but I'm going to delete it anyways. And it'll look black for now, but you'll see once we bring it into Blender, it'll all make sense. So I'm going to export. I'm going to open it up. I'm going to change the name. To go to paints. And then I'm going to open it in Blender. So here we are in Blender 4.1. If you watch any of my other videos, you'll kind of get an idea of how Blender works. So there's a bunch of menus up here. Then there's a sidebar here. We're not going to worry about any of that. Basically, if you follow these steps, you don't need to know much. But if you're interested in learning Blender, like I always recommend, Blender Guru, his donut series is phenomenal. It'll give you everything you need to go from a beginner to an expert. I get the tutorial does take a while. I think it's a few hours long, but it's well worth it. So I'll put a link in the description for Blender. Blender is open source like Inscape. Basically, you could download it for free, no charge, and it's very robust. So I'm going to sacrifice the default cube. This is your default scene. This, when you open Blender for the first time, it'll look like this. If you press X, it'll ask you if you want to delete. Press delete. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to import scalable vector graphics.svg. I'm going to go to my desktop, which is where I saved it. And I'm going to go into and open the file. Then I click on import SVG. You can't see it, but it's all the way down here. Okay. And if you see in the Scene Explorer, it's going to give you two paths. So now if you look at this icon here, this icon represents this being a curve. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert these two into a mesh, because you can't really extrude a curve, but you could extrude a polygon or a mesh. So I'm going to click on the first one. I'm going to go to Object, Convert, Mesh, and then I'm going to do the same for the other one. Object, Convert, Mesh. Okay, so now if you look at this, the icon change. Now it's a triangle. Triangle represents a polygon, so it tells you it's a mesh. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go here. I'm going to click. So if you click on the tab button on your keyboard, it'll bring you into edit mode. And now you'll see all these dots. These are basically all your vertices. There's edges here, and there's polygons. If you go up to the menu up top, you could click on the middle button, which shows a line. These are your edges, and the other one is your polygons. And the first one is vertices. So we want to stay on vertices, and I want to select the vertices at the edge of the background, because like I said, we're going to try to delete the background or minimize the size of the background so that it only prints the name and the outline of the shadow of the name. So I'm going to click on the first vertice, and then I'm going to click on my shift key, my keyboard, and I'm going to pan over. If you click on shift and then middle click, it'll help you pan over. And if you continue clicking on the shift button and drag, basically select drag or select box here, it'll select each one. And then you could click on X and this dialog box will show up and it'll ask you what you want to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete the vertices. So now it has limited the background to this. Now you're going to have a little bit of the background here, here, and here. You could always go in there and maybe you want to delete these. So I'm going to click on my edge. Okay. And now I want to leave this one here only because if I don't leave that one there, it's going to become two objects, unless that's what you want to do. But I'm going to leave that one there just so that it could support both of them. We're going to go to Polygon and we're going to select all of them by pressing A, and that'll select all the polygons. We're going to press E and that'll extrude everything up. Now, there were some smaller polygons at the edge, but that's not a big deal. Not going to worry about that too much. And now we're going to press tab again to get out of edit mode. And now I'm going to go to the other path, which is the background. And I'm going to go into edit mode by pressing tab. And I'm going to press A to select all. I'm actually going to make the background higher than the foreground just to bypass this edge here, just to make it look like it wasn't an accident, which it was. So I'm going to click here. Now your letters look like they're set in. And it looks like it was the style. It looks like it was on purpose. It doesn't look like it was an accident. I actually kind of like it. So now we're going to export this as an STL so that we could 3D print. So we're going to go to File, Export, STL. We want to put it in the same folder that we have all our other files. Now you can click on selection only and select your two paths. Your two meshes. You don't have to. If you leave it off, it'll export everything. But for our purposes, we want to have a little bit more control. So we want to click on selection only. We select both meshes. Export STL. We're going to name it Gordo Paints. Export STL. And I'm going to open Bamboo Studio because that's what I use to print, because I have a P1S. So what I'm going to do is go to the STL. I'm going to drag and drop it. It'll ask me if it's too small. This happens when the units are not specified in Blender. So I'm going to say yes, and it's going to bring it in. Sometimes it might be too small for your on the plate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scale it. So now what I want is this to be about 6 inches. So it'll be about 250. Let's make it 4 inches. Sorry. 4 inches is about 100. So we're going to make it 6 inches. We wanted 150. 25 millimeters is roughly an inch. So I'm going to click that. And I'm going to go to, I always like to put it on gyroid. And I'm going to paint it. And here it is. Okay, ladies and gents. If you like this video, please give it a like. If this is your first time here, please subscribe. Please take care of yourselves and your loved ones. Peace.